Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Late Night Drives podcast. In this week's episode, we have Sai Boddupalli with us to help unpack the eventful French GP. Hey, Sai, welcome to the Late Night Drives podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so what did you think of this race? I thought it was really interesting in terms of strategy, and generally, I didn't expect this race to have any drama, but it was really, really interesting and very intense, actually, all the way till the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Like usually, Paul Ricard is just a snooze fest.
Yeah.
I was hearing this stat the other day. I think out of the last 108 laps, Lewis Hamilton led 106 and
Yes.
Paul Ricard.
Yeah.
And I was expecting this to be a Mercedes domination, but it became pretty clear on Friday practice, I think, and well into FP3 that Mercedes might not be favorites here.
Yeah.
But you never know with them, the sandbagging and the complaining and everything else. But yeah, it was definitely I would say a five-star race. I was in my seat for every single lap. It was one of those races which was really interesting because we talk about exciting races, we talk about like crashes and this and variable weather, but this was just like one of those like core strategy,
Yeah.
races. And you could see this unfolding from like lap 25, and you knew we're gonna get like, we're gonna get a duel like maybe 4 or 5 laps at the end, or you're hoping for it. And
Yeah.
that kept you really, really, really plugged in.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was a great race. Very, very surprising.
Yeah. So I was actually quite impressed with Hamilton and his car setup. I mean, a lot of people say that he sandbags and basically like through practice and
Yeah.
he doesn't really show the true potential of the car. But I don't know. Somehow it did seem like he was doing that this weekend. I think he was genuinely struggling through practice and at least the first part of qualifying. And
Yeah.
the commentators were saying that he made setup changes all the way up to Q1. And it was
Yeah.
only in Q1 that he actually felt comfortable with the car. So I thought that was really impressive. I mean, for him to qualify second from there was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he pulled it out of the bag. He was in kind of a similar situation in Baku as well.
Correct.
When they were
Exactly.
and then
Yeah.
suddenly he's up there. I don't think that he had the qualifying pace, and but he was somehow able to kind of make it work and stick it on the front row,
Yeah.
and had the lead for a significant portion of the first part of the race too.
Yeah, I think that mistake that Verstappen made into the first corner, I think everybody
Yes,
was basically struggling with the tires and
win.
wind in the
Yeah,
first part of the Grand Prix. You know, Pirelli ensuring that all cars had 2 psi extra, I think
yeah,
sort of caught a lot of people off guard this weekend.
yeah, absolutely. I think that kind of played into the strategist's hands there, right? And the
Yeah.
strategists either they got promoted and really earned their money, or they got kind of they got shown their place this weekend, right?
Yeah.
And I think Red Bull were the ones who really, really saw the issues with the Pirelli tires very early on. The
Hmm.
fact that these tires are not going to last as long as they thought, and Mercedes didn't. And I think that's kind of what was pretty much the deciding factor in the race, was the strategy. I think both Lewis and Max were excellent in the race, but I think
Hmm.
this was definitely a race of strategy, and whoever got that right call was going to end up on top.
I mean, they played it really smart in terms of like
Yeah,
Red Bull pitting Verstappen a second time
yeah,
on lap 32. And I mean, it was sort of like uh, what do you call it? Like a
it was
retaliation
a
from
damage.
Barcelona. You know,
Yeah,
like Mercedes did the same
yeah,
thing. And
yeah.
but a lot of the drivers were saying they didn't expect the undercut to be that strong. Do you think that is
Yeah.
actually the case with all the, the strategic prowess that these teams have? You actually think that they wouldn't know how much the undercut would like be beneficial to them?
It's possible. I think like one of the things that you were saying was about the last minute changes in the recommendations to the tire
Hmm.
pressure. Right? So there are a lot of folks speculating that that's probably what caused the tires to fall off faster than expected, and so this caught the strategists like off guard. But I think what was uh, the most impressive aspect for me was um, I think Red Bull was really, really proactive in taking the race into their own hands. they weren't too concerned about. I mean, they're obviously concerned, but they weren't like their sole focus was not figuring out what Mercedes is going to do.
Yeah.
They were looking at their own data, they were understanding their own pace, their own program. I think also having Sergio Perez go along, like a
Yeah.
tire
Again.
expert,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, like sometimes you wonder whether he even like needs a pit stop, but because of the mandatory change, yes. But I think they kind of were great in mixing up their strategy and being proactive. And I think that just shows that they have a lot of confidence in their car and also a lot of confidence in Max as well, right? Where they're like, we're not going to wait for Mercedes to do something and then us playing defense. We're going to take it to the offense. And they had Mercedes playing defense, pretty much the whole race.
Yeah.
They were the from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think when Max pitted on lap 32 and came out, I think he was like what 18 seconds behind Hamilton and had about
Yeah,
19 laps to go, or I think the other way around, or
yeah,
something like that. So,
yeah,
of
yeah,
course, it was confidence in the driver that makes a team take such a decision, right? That he can actually eke out
yeah.
a second a lap and you know two
Oh yeah,
seconds a lap to begin with, and actually
yeah.
overtake Hamilton. But yeah, going further down the field, I actually thought Aston's had a great strategy again this weekend. Starting both drivers on hard tires, and yeah, it was amazing to see that Verstappen pitting for the second time in lap 32, and like Vettel and Stroll still going on their original
Yeah,
set
they
of
were still
hard
on the hard
tires.
tire.
Yeah, so I thought
Yeah, it
their
was like
strategy worked well.
definitely.
Yeah,
It was like a copy and paste job from the last two races, right? With Seb and the overcut. I
yeah.
think I think in this race, I was reading somewhere that he actually had an off for like 3 seconds, and that wasn't shown on TV. And he
Hmm.
could have probably finished ahead of Gasly had that not happened, and he had a
Yeah.
slow pit stop.
Yeah.
But I think the gains that you can make on a more traditional track like Paul Ricard with that strategy are going to be a little bit less.
Yeah.
And I think he qualified as well as he would have liked either this time around.
E-
Like 12th.
Yeah. But I think that
Probably
just
indicated early ways.
exactly, I was going to say the same thing. I think it just shows that that's where the car is probably at.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just the
yeah,
strategy that's helping them move forward in the field.
yeah.
Another person who went along during the race was Lando Norris, who was very skeptical of his team strategy, but
Yeah,
it paid dividends at the end, him finishing fifth.
yeah. He finished ahead of Ricardo,
Yeah.
and for a long time in the race, it looked like Ricardo had the measure of him. And he finished just one spot behind him in the end. I think Ricardo finished in sixth, right? But I
Yeah.
think that's pretty good, team result from McLaren.
Yeah.
Because seeing where they're at with their battle with Ferrari, and I think Ferrari generally had kind of the better two of the weekends. Of course, with Charles not competing in Monaco, they missed out on two cars in the points,
Hmm.
but Carlos Sainz finished second in Monaco,
Yeah.
and then Baku, they were solidly in the points as well, and McLaren didn't really have those weekends.
Yeah.
So McLaren was kind of on the back foot, but they've always looked like the more convincing car in race conditions, and they really brought it, at Paul Ricard. Unlike their foes at Ferrari.
Yeah, I think they've pretty much, like you said, got the measure of Ferrari on race Sundays. I mean, Ferraris tend to be quick on Saturdays, quicker than the McLarens, at least during qualifying. But I think
Yeah,
Charles struggled all weekend. I don't know whether it was set up, whether it was just the layout of the track probably doesn't suit his driving style, or I mean, at least it suits Sainz much better. He seemed to be, the smooth operator in quote.
yeah.
So
Sainz has looked really, really good at
yeah,
Ferrari since he got in that. Right,
yeah,
I would say, he's been the most convincing of the switchers to a new team. Right, settled in there very well. But I'm struggling to recall a situation where a team has been like such a strong qualifier and such a poor race car. Like I have to think back to like maybe like Toyota in
mm,
2006 or something.
mm,
Yano truly on pole and then finishing like 12th because it just eats up its tires.
yeah.
It was a disaster from Ferrari, and like they just I was worried that I think one of the Ferraris did finish behind a Williams, right? It finished behind an Alfa
Charles,
Romeo. Yeah, Charles finished behind
Charles
a
finished.
Williams.
Yeah,
He just kept
hey,
going.
but hey, Russell finished 12th, man. You have to give it
He
to him
also
too. Like,
finished 12. Yeah, that is ridiculous. Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
he
he
finished
finished ahead
12.
of. Okay, Sunoda started from the pit lane. But
Pit
like
lane,
he finished ahead of
yeah.
Ocon, he finished ahead of Giovinazzi, he finished ahead of
Yeah,
Raikkonen.
yeah.
You have to give
Where
it
did he
to him.
qualify? Didn't he qualify around there too? He made it
Uh,
to Q2 with.
he made it to Q2 like he always does.
Yeah,
He qualified 14th.
14th. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, he and Nick made it to Q2.
yeah,
That is surprising.
yeah. But I think Mick made it to Q2 only because of well Tsunoda's accident, and I think
Yeah,
that red flag kind of screwed over like a whole bunch of drivers, including Stroll and Raikkonen, right? So
yeah,
yeah, that's probably
yeah.
why
Definitely,
Mick made it to Q2.
Nick made it. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I
Probably,
think he,
probably taking a page out of Ferrari and Charles Leclerc's book.
yeah, the
Uh,
Ferrari playbook. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
getting
Uh,
a red flag out to ensure you are
yeah.
qualifying.
I mean,
Uh,
you could say if it's a red flag, then kind of calling the session to and then taking a page out of his dad's playbook.
yeah, fair
But
enough. Probably that page out of his dad's playbook makes more sense. Yeah. Uh,
it was an absolute shocker of a race for Ferrari.
even the home hero Ocon sort of struggled a little. Gasly still did really well. I mean, playing
Yeah,
to his home crowd, and I
yeah.
think Gasly ends up bringing it every weekend. But yeah,
P5 to P7 somewhere,
yeah,
right? He's
yeah.
just
Max, he
and
says right, he maximized his points, and he can't be upset with it.
absolutely,
And that's
yeah,
pretty much it. Any other like highlights for you from the race that you thought like were like key moments of the race?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think with 5 laps to go, or when Verstappen hadn't got past Bottas, right? I was worried that Red Bull had got it wrong,
Hmm.
because there was a point in time where it looked like Lewis was able to maintain the gap against Max. And there was a point in time where it looked like Max's tires were falling off towards the end, and the strategy didn't pay off. And I kept thinking about whether Red Bull had brought him in too early for the second pit stop. Like, did they need to do that?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like he was actually losing ground at that point. They were super proactive, but
Yeah.
could they have kept him out like a few more laps and then made the switch so that he was on fresher tires at the end? But he had me fooled, because once he was up in second place, I think he got Hamilton with 2 laps to spare. It's a pretty
Yeah.
easy move, and he set fastest lap as well. So that was something that I was a little concerned about in between. I honestly think that Mercedes had the car capable of winning this race. Like maybe not qualifying on pole, but had they done the two-stopper, I think they would have finished ahead of Red Bull.
I think so too. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. I
Yeah.
mean, Bottas made
Lewis
it
does.
abundantly clear.
Lewis says
Sorry,
Red Bull had the car.
I don't believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't believe
So yeah,
that.
absolutely. I
I
think
think
it was a
Bottas made
strategy.
it absolutely clear on the radio, right?
Yeah,
That yeah, like if you had just listened to me and like put me again, I would have been able to fight for
yeah.
the win, right?
He's got his own other demons to fight
Yeah,
with right now.
yeah,
Whether he's going to be in the team or not next year, but I think yeah, I think Toto said it as well in the post-race interviews that like we had the car to win the race today. It just didn't happen. So I think they can take that confidence with them to Austria. It's not really been a great track for Red Bull, but neither has Paul Ricard. And we saw what happened here. You never know. Yeah, they're full of confidence. So 3 wins on the trot.
I just want to talk about one more thing about the race, which
Sure.
is the two McLarens overtaking Alonso. Uh,
Yeah.
though that was on lap 11, and Lando's move to overtake Alonso at that point
It was,
was
it was delicious.
insane.
It was butter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to catch
Absolutely.
someone like Alonso off guard,
Yeah.
it may take some skill.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think he was a little stunned by. I think Daniel got past him first, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then a couple of corners later, Lando got him. And I think he's
yeah,
just like a little like bewildered at what happened.
yeah.
But that move from Lando was just what. The
Like,
DRS wasn't that effective actually for this race. It was kind of
uh,
refreshing. Yeah.
so actually on the main straight it wasn't, but it ended up being quite helpful on the Mistral straight, right?
Yeah. It was like one. I think it was I mean, there's some of these races where you have like 3 DRS zones and you just like
Yeah,
let
yeah.
it fly. And, it's a happy compromise we have right now. So
But the stat in this race was that if you had your DRS open in both zones of the race over one lap, it was a
yeah.
7/10 gain.
Oh wow.
That's why it ended up being the Mistral straight and the chicane there, which was the more overtaking friendly corner as opposed to like turn one. Uh,
Yeah. And the nice thing, the straights aren't that long also on this track,
yeah,
right? Like, there's
yeah.
some straights like where like Sochi and stuff like where it's
Mhm.
just going on
Baku, man.
forever. Baku, yeah. I mean, like you're actually kind of at a disadvantage if you're leading over there
Yeah,
sometimes, right?
yeah.
So,
I actually thought on lap six when Hamilton complained about his tires giving way to his engineer, I thought it was a
yeah.
premonition of him winning for sure because every time
Oh
in the
yes,
past where he's
yeah.
complained,
Oh no, my tires are gone. Oh no, my
yeah,
tires are gone.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a premonition, but apparently that
Yeah.
didn't really
Yeah.
go through. But so Sai, who according to you were like the winners and the losers, the major winners and losers for this race?
Yeah, I think the winners are pretty easy here. I think definitely Red Bull winners. As a team, solid
Hmm.
team result right there, 1 and 3. I don't know how many points did they lead the constructors by? Like 20 something points now.
Uh,
It's sizable, yeah. Because I think even Bottas is behind Lando Norris now as well.
Yeah,
So
I'll just tell you that it's well over. It's about 30 odd points.
yeah,
Yeah,
so that's expanding, and
yeah,
hopefully, I think they would have been more disappointed by the result at Baku than Mercedes, even though Hamilton had that win. I think
yeah,
he knew he kind
yeah,
of walked into that situation.
yeah.
So Red Bull are the big winners here. Really, really good result from McLaren as well, fifth and sixth. Especially considering that they're fighting with Ferrari for the third place in the championship.
Yeah.
Gasly is up there. I would say like an even result for Aston Martin, probably where they would expect to finish up.
Hmm.
Um, I think the big losers, if I have to highlight individuals, I think Valtteri was just it was not really for any fault of his own. I mean, he was amazing through free practice. He had a pretty decent qualifying run, and he was just kind of left out to dry.
Yeah.
And so there's no love lost there
Yeah.
in that relationship, I feel right now. So he's definitely one of the big losers. I'd say Esteban Ocon is another one, fresh
I think.
off of that contract signing, 3 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
home
3 year
Grand Prix,
extension.
just slid back. And I would say also as a team, Ferrari is just, this is going to be one that they just want to forget really, really
Yeah.
fast.
I
And
think
I don't know if
Sainz
they'll get
still finished on par, but Charles was a terrible race for him.
Charles is just. I think he was off. He was off of it just throughout the
Yeah.
weekend. It was
Yeah.
just not his weekend. I think another loser out of this, and I think this one is going to be one that people are going to start talking a little bit more about is Yuki Tsunoda. Like I think, every time we start to see some daylight and consistency, we start to see these mistakes. And I think he crashed out in his first lap of qualifying, right? This is
Yeah.
outlap, I think. He
No,
wasn't
it
even
wasn't as an
setting a
out.
time.
No, no,
It
he
was
had
an
just
outlap.
started his first
He
run.
exited the
Yeah.
lane, right? Yeah, and he binned it, right?
Yeah.
And then it was a disaster, and I'm not sure how he's going to recover from this, but I would say that he's definitely got a lot of talent, but something needs to change. Like he just needs a clean weekend, and it's just. I think he had a clean weekend in Baku, right?
Not really.
Or
He
was it
crashed in Baku as well in
Monaco?
qualifying.
Crash in Monaco.
No, he didn't crash in
Something like
Monaco,
that.
but
He
it was the
crashed in
first time he
Monaco.
was driving there. So, I think he was very
Yeah,
careful there. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Probably. I think he crashed the previous race, and that's why he was
Yeah.
careful. So he keeps having these okay, I've had a good solid weekend, and then he goes next, and I think the sad thing is they have a really good car this year.
I was actually going
Like
to say that. I think maybe
they could be
Gasly is
fighting with
perhaps.
McLaren and Ferrari if they had two good drivers. I feel, you know.
I actually feel like perhaps Gasly is overperforming. I don't know if their car is as good as like Gasly is making it out to be.
Yeah,
And I think he's that pressure is just on Tsunoda to like perform at his
to
level. So
do
maybe
well.
that's
Yeah,
why he's making those
it's
mistakes.
possible. Yeah,
I think another big loser was Alpine. As a team,
Oh,
they showed a lot of
yeah,
promise over the practice and even qualifying to a
yeah,
certain extent.
yeah,
But I don't think they did. Yeah, I don't think they finished where they were hoping to finish personally.
yeah. Their race pace has
Yeah,
also been lacking, but I think all of the eyeballs were off of them, given how badly Ferrari performed this week.
yeah,
Right?
fair
It
enough.
was a disaster.
Looking forward to the next two races. I both are at Austria. Uh, Verstappen's, of course, and Red Bull have got the momentum going, but historically they've never had very good results at their home race at
Yeah,
the Red Bull Ring. Uh, what do you think is going to happen? What are your predictions for the race,
yeah.
and how do you think who's going to finish where? Like, who do you think are your top three?
Top three. Hmm. This is going to be a tough one, but I think maybe I'll start with who might finish third. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a McLaren in third in one of these races. Like they're really, really quick on a straight line. This is a fast, free-flowing circuit. Um, you know, I would say that they could potentially be in the mix. With regards to who's going to win, maybe one apiece to Verstappen and Hamilton.
Okay.
Um, and then maybe one apiece to Bottas and Perez in second. But I would like to see a McLaren. If I had to pick an outsider team to potentially land on the podium, it would be McLaren at this
Okay.
point. And I'm hoping we get an outsider finish.
Hmm. I don't think that's going to be the case. I feel like I feel like Red Bulls
Yeah,
has the momentum with it. And
yeah,
at least for the next race, I think Verstappen's going to probably take it. That's my opinion, at least.
yeah.
But you never know. I hope I'm proved wrong, just to make the
Yeah,
championship more interesting.
definitely, because we got the British Grand Prix after that,
Yeah.
and Mercedes is always going to do well. The Hungarian Grand Prix as well,
Yeah.
Belgium for sure. So and usually the second half of the season is when Lewis comes alive. He's
Correct.
actually had a pretty decent start when you think about it. Like
It's his best start. It's
it's
his
his best start.
best championship
Still his best
start.
start after the last two races, but I think
Yeah, I
after
mean, apart
Baku,
from the last race, I think like
yeah,
Baku
this is
screwed
his
him
best
over,
start.
but yeah, otherwise it's been
Yeah,
his
for sure.
best
So
start
he's
so
up
far.
there. There's just something that looks a bit more convincing about this title challenge from Red Bull
Hmm.
than like the two challenges that Ferrari put up in 17 and 18,
Yeah,
where it just looked like they were fighting by the skin of their teeth
yeah,
and
yeah.
stressed out. Everything just seems a little bit more calm at Red Bull.
It's a long season ahead, and I hope it remains as close as it has been so far.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, all right. Thanks a lot, Sai, for joining me for this episode of the Late Night Drives podcast. I hope we do this again soon.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for having
Yeah.
me.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks. Take care.
All right. See ya.
So that's it for this week, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you have a great night. Do follow us on our social channels to keep updated. That's Late Night Drives Podcast on Instagram and Late Night Drives on Twitter.